Welcome back to AM Northwest. Parenting looks very different today than it did a generation ago. So how can grandparents help without stepping on toes? Here to share some helpful insights, we welcome back the author of Customized Parenting, Bailey Gaddis. Bailey, great to see you again.
Hi, good to see you, Helen.
So talk to me about how parenting is very different. So that means we kind of need to change the grandparenting just a bit.
Yes, so parenting these days is very different than it was, say, 30 years ago. And it's not like better or worse, it's just evolved. So these days, for example, parents see misbehavior more as communication. And so it's used as a way to get to know the child better, to figure out why are they misbehaving. Parents are really intentional about the different aspects of parenting. So many parents have some sort of plan, again, for feeding the child, for discipline, for all of it. And they're a lot of parents are very particular about how they want things done, for
Yeah,
better or worse.
yeah.
And yeah, this can be really different than how it was done a generation ago.
So grandparents, you say that they don't have to agree with every choice that their adult children make about their kids.
Well, right. So they don't have to agree, but it's really, really important to try to understand
Right.
where the child is coming from and also respect their choices, which can be so hard, but it's crucial to have a united front in front of the grandkids. Kids can feel tension. Even if you're just having a minor disagreement with your child about, say, discipline, children can feel that as like the end of the world. So it's really important to keep those disagreements to the side, keep it private, have that united front with the kids, and again, really, really try to understand and respect where your kids are coming from.
Let's get a little bit more clear about how grandparents can help without causing any tension. So you mentioned about, seeking, while you can disagree, that doesn't mean that you do what you want to do. You listen to what the parents want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, for example, if the parents are having a really hard time with something or venting to you about parenting, it's really important to ask, in this situation, do you want my advice or are you just looking for support, for a sounding board?
Right.
Because it's important to know because sometimes people don't want advice, they
Yeah.
just want your unconditional support.
Right. And it's so often how I've seen so many situations where the grandparent thinks they know better and they want to just do what they want to do. And that causes friction, like between daughters-in-laws and sons-in-laws. That's not helpful.
No, it's not. I have lived that. Most people have in some capacity. And look, I understand where grandparents are coming from. They've raised children all the way through adulthood. They
Right.
have a lot of experience and they have a lot of wisdom, but it's that wisdom isn't going to land with your kids unless they're open to it, right?
Right.
And usually, like if they trust you, if they know that you respect them, they'll probably come around eventually and ask for some of your ideas, but you
Yeah.
just can't force it on them. It
You
just
you say that parents want to feel respected and not judged, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then advice is also better when it's invited advice, not just freely given.
Right, exactly. When it's freely given, it's usually going to not
Right.
even registered by your child, or even worse, it can make them, like we just said, feel judged,
Right.
and it can create a barrier.
So support parents first is your big note here.
Yes, yes. Become aligned with what they're doing and really make a concerted effort to understand what their plan is. And if they don't have it written down, you can even jot down notes. If it's really different than how you did it and you need a reminder about how do they manage a tantrum,
Right.
jot down some notes and that can make them feel so seen. And again, back to respect,
Right.
really, really respected.
So when it comes to the grandkids, you talk about understanding big emotions.
Right. This is a big one, and it's one of the biggest differences that I've seen between parenting, again, 30 years ago and
Right.
parenting now. So these days, big emotions are seen more as a type of communication instead of misbehavior. So while, of course, if a child is harming themselves or somebody else or being incredibly disruptive, sure, sometimes you need to physically intervene to keep them safe. But more often than not, if they're just having, a lot of emotions and expressing themselves, it's so helpful. And so many parents do this these days to number one, calm yourself, because it is so triggering when
Yeah.
a child is
Yeah.
yelling and screaming, and it's so natural to want to just yell back.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help at all. So one of the first steps for us, all adults, is to whew, take a deep breath, soften our face, soften our body, get on the child's level. You can even open your arms to show that, look, I'm a source of support when
Yeah.
you're ready. Like, I'm here for a hug or whatever you need. And just that can help the child regulate their emotions and feel safe. That's one of the number one things children want. They want to feel safe, especially with their caregivers.
You talk a lot about the parenting plan. I just want to make sure I understand what you mean by the parenting plan. It's, as you mentioned, first of all, it's understanding emotions can be big and not require discipline, but more calmness. But what else does it mean?
Yeah, so with the parenting plan, it can include information techniques for so many different areas of parenting. For example, parents might have a very specific plan for how and when they put their kids to sleep. They
Gotcha.
might have, very specific plans about food, for example,
Yeah.
you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you say for grandparents to prioritize the relationship that you have with your adult children, that with the parents, over the control.
Right. You might have like what you feel is the best piece of advice and something that can just completely transform your child's life for the better regarding parenting, but look, giving that advice over showing them that you respect them and you're there for them, that advice isn't going to strengthen the relationship. You showing that unconditional love and understanding and that you're there for them no matter what, that's going to create this really solid bond that is then going to pass over, to the grandchildren. And
Yeah.
that's going to strengthen your bond there as well.
Uh,
And ultimately, wouldn't we rather be happy than right,
yeah. I know some parents deal with the spoiling that the grandparents do for the kids. And I guess what we need to define spoiling, but like giving grand parties where the parents can't afford something like that and don't want their kids to have this overabundance of things, just a few things. And grandparents can feel like it's their right to throw their grandchild this huge party or give big gifts and many, many gifts.
Right. Yeah, I think number one with that is communication, especially for example, like Christmas morning, you want to get them 20 gifts, to check in with the parents. Because sometimes the parents might say, for example, with the gifts, look, that really goes against the values that we're trying to instill. Like, I
Right.
really am asking you to not do that. And your children will appreciate you so much for asking them first.
Yeah.
And sometimes, look, if you're like, oh, I really, I know that they're not doing much sugar, but I really want to take them, out for ice cream after school today. And usually, it's like, yeah, that's fine. Go and take them to do that special thing. So usually parents have some flexibility there, but the asking, the communicating, that is the crucial step.
That's the number one thing, and can gain so much by doing what the parents are asking you to do. Makes a lot of sense. We want to tell everyone again, your book is titled Customized Parenting. Bailey Gaddis, thank you so much. Always really good to talk with you. Very informative.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest.